Hi, this is Diana Krebs with Olive Well Podcasting, and we are here today with Kim. So, Kim and I met when we were in our early 20s. We waited tables together at Red Robin, and she was like my instant friend. So, he just loved her. I loved her back then. I just thought she was so beautiful. I'm like, I can't believe I got the prettiest friend. But through the years, we we have lost touch a little bit, and but I have followed her on social media, and so Kim's going to talk about her son today. And when we talk about we only have 18 summers with our kids, that really hits home with Kim. And so Kim truly only had 18 summers. And so I'm going to let her tell you about her son Bash and how she's surviving.
Well, hi Diana. Thank you. What a great introduction. And I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity to have for you to have me on. And when you had asked, talking about child loss and to talk about Bash, of course, I always will jump to the chance to talk about my son, Sebastian. So, yes, 18 summers. So we had 18 summers with Bash. So Sebastian was my firstborn son of four children. And we lost him when he was 18 years old. We lost him in a car accident, and it's definitely, you hear all the cliche phrases and sayings that, there's no loss like child loss, and you'll never get an argument from me there. When we lose people that we love, it hurts. It hurts a lot, and we try and figure out how to get beyond it and how to get through it. And it's different when you lose a child. It's not, there's really no words. There really are no words. It's humbling to say the least. It stops you in your tracks and makes you relook at life completely differently. Um, in my story, in our story, one of the pivotal moments was, so we are out here in Santa Clarita and in that area. And so 4 years ago is when we lost Bash. And we had the Saga shootings out here in November of 2019. And nowadays there's school shootings, I mean, every day, multiple times a day. But 4 years ago, they weren't as prevalent. So 4 years ago, when a school shooting hit our town, it was, monumental to say the least. And we lost two students that were shot and killed at school. And I remember thinking of those parents, and they had a vigil a couple days later. And I remember at the vigil, there were thousands of people, thousands of candles, thousands of tears. And my son was with me for that vigil. And when it was over, we went to the parking lot, and he got into the car with my daughter, and he said, I'll see you at home, Mom. And I was thinking right then and there, it was like a moment in time I'll never forget. And I remember looking at him in the car with my daughter and just thinking, like, God, how are these parents gonna ever get over losing their children, like in the Saga shooting? And I looked at him and I said, please drive safe. I'll see you at home. And 3 days later, I was one of those parents that had lost their child because he died in a car accident 3 days later. And it changes you in ways I can't explain. Um, it was one of those things where you don't ever think it'll happen to you, because you hear about it happening to other people, just like the shootings. You just don't think that it's going to happen to you. And even though it was 4 years ago, I mean, I can recall like the details as if they happened 5 minutes ago. And yeah, so I'll never forget that day. and all the days since. So he was Bash was a really amazing kid, and I know most moms will say that about their kid, but he really was. He was a good kid. He had a good heart and a good soul, and he meant good by everybody he met, and he cared about people in the most amazing ways. He felt bad for the underdog. He hated when people were bullied. He would befriend the person at the party who didn't have any friends. He made an impression on people that, we didn't even realize until we heard all these stories about him after he was gone. And to say I'm proud is an understatement. So he was a remarkable human being. And, I've gone through the whole why him, why me, why now, why? Because I also have 3 daughters, and they're equally amazing. But when this happened, they were ages 8, 10, and 13. And, 11 days after we lost Bash was my daughter's birthday. And I just kept thinking, like, I don't know which way is up right now. I don't know how to celebrate a birthday. I don't celebrate, wasn't even in my vocabulary. I didn't know what to do. So, what I can tell you that's helped us, that's got us through, has been the enormous amount of people that have come forward that have been just so supportive and so loving and so willing to lay down their plans and their everything just to kind of come and comfort us. And our home was full of all of Bash's friends, all my daughter's friends, all their families, people we didn't know, people we did know, people that were calling from different states that somehow knew my son. So the support was overwhelming, and I am eternally grateful for everybody that came to our rescue, because I don't think we would have made it as far as we have if we didn't have all that.
Right. So the community support.
Yeah, so good, so good. And then I, of course, turn to something like this that devastates everybody in the family. You look to a higher power. You look to, like, how am I going to get through this? How? And so for me, I turned to God, and I can't say that I was in my spiritual walk before losing Bash, but when this happened, I instantly knew, like, that was the one thing I had always said, like, I will never survive losing any of my children. I just won't. And here I am 4 years later, and I'm here. And I do believe that's because I had turned to God and I said, help me figure this out, because I'm not going to be able to do it without your help. And I immediately started to think about what my son would want. And that really stuck with me. It still does every single day. And I think about, like, I can't let him down because I have 3 daughters to take care of. And I can't bury my head in the sand, and I can't go into a deep depression, and I can't, like, disappear. That's not an option. Disappearing is not an option. It's not fair to my daughters. They've gone through all this, and they loved their brother. He was such a good brother. He was such a good brother. So every day I just think, like, okay, what would he want me to do? And it's helped me just go from day to day. I have to show up. I don't get a choice. But in saying that, I will also say that one of the other things that I firmly believe in is that you can't bury the grief. It won't go away. It'll surface in some other way. And deep grief like this, it won't, you can't shove it off. You can't go around it. You have to go through it. And so when I have my days, today might be one of them, where it's a sad day, it's sad. There's not a day that goes by since we lost him that I don't think about him. It just doesn't happen. And you hear people say, well, in time it gets better. I don't know if I'd say it's gotten better. I would say it's gotten more familiar. I know more what the feelings look like when they come. I know that I need to sit with them. I know they're not going to go away. I have things that I look forward to, reminiscing in my own mind or remembering about him, or videos or pictures, or things that I use to try and get me from one day to the next. But I think it's important to be able to be in those feelings, good, bad, or indifferent, because it's part of the process. Um, and the other phrase that I really capitalized on, it resonates with me, is that you you don't get past this. It's not something, there's no closure when you lose your child. It won't end. I will always miss him. I will always want him to be here. I will always wonder why he was taken from us at the young age of 18. He would be 23 this year. And I look at all of his friends and, all that stuff. What would he have been? Um, what
Right.
would what would
Life
he be doing?
beginning, really.
Yeah.
Those early 20s.
As parents, you have all these, ideals and images and dreams and things that you think about your kids are going to do or be, or, and Bash wanted to be a fireman. Bash wanted to be a dad. Bash wanted to be a husband. And he would have been a really good one. So those losses are little losses within the big loss. And that takes processing too. But um, yeah, you don't get past it. You learn how to live with it, is what I think I've learned. Um,
Do you think so you have three daughters. Do you find yourself parenting those three daughters differently now? Is
Absolutely.
there more patience? I think about my son, and I know this is a whole different scenario. My son entered high school this year, and all he talks about is Penn State, Stanford, like nowhere near our house. And I think I'm just going to have more patience and grace with my kids because when he goes, I don't think I smother the shit out of him. So I think like he's not coming back, but like do you feel like with your own daughters, you're like, you know what, I'm just going to let this go or?
Absolutely. And that's why I'm laughing, because I'm inclined to want to say yes to whatever they want. I feel like they have been robbed of having their brother, and they have been had to process the emotional wherewithal of all this, and they're kids. I mean, some adults don't know how to process this, and they're children, and their emotional maturity level has gone through the roof because they've had to deal with so many things, that I don't think are fair. So when they when they fill my Amazon cart
Yeah.
and come say, "Can I buy all those things?" In the past, I may have said, "No, are you nuts? Like, we can't afford all that." Now I'm always like, "Can we?" Yes, like, sure, why not? It's just this. It's just a phone case. It's just a lip gloss. It's just.
Mm.
So in that regard, I just always want to say yes to whatever they want, because I feel like it'll never fill the void, but I will die trying to fill that void for them. So I do. Um, I find that I'm a lot more lenient on them, and I mean, even even things like that I never would have agreed to. For example, when my daughter turned 14, 11 days later, what did she want? She wanted a tattoo for her brother, because there were a great many number of people still to this day getting tattoos with Sebastian's name or numbers or what have you. And so my daughter felt like, he's my brother, mom. Like, that's always going to have meaning to me, because we say to our kids, well, don't get a tattoo when you're 18, because when you're 35, it's not going to have meaning. But she
Right.
asked, "Can I please?" And we said yes. And I look at that now and I'm like, oh my goodness, what?
Would you
I
I don't know if I would let my daughter get a tattoo at 14, but
normally I wouldn't, but at that time, and with her request and seeing, the heartbreak and being in shock still.
but what's the big deal? Like, what's the big deal about getting a tattoo? Really, there isn't a big deal. Like, what's the difference? 14, 18? Like, what's the big deal, right? I let my daughter dye her hair all the time, and my mom's always like, she's going to ruin her hair. I'm like, by the time she's 18, her hair's going to be grown out. God, what are you worried about?
Yeah, self-expression I think is really important,
Yeah,
especially for teenagers,
yeah, yeah.
especially for teen. going through grief. They need outlets for sure. So, yes.
How did they get through it? Did any of them shut down or were they vocal? Like,
Yes, all the above. So all three of them are very different in nature from one another. Um, and just having the, background in therapy myself, I was trying to therapize them, like, okay, we need to get into therapy. Okay, we need to talk about it. And that does not fit for everybody. So they've all processed it very differently. Therapy didn't work for everybody. And we're still kind of trying to figure that piece out, because it might be something that works for one of my daughters maybe in the future, but so far it's not been working for everybody. One of the things that has helped tremendously is the sports. So our family was a softball family always, and when this happened, tragedy struck, we were amidst doing travel softball, and I remember my husband, 2 days after we lost Sebastian, he felt so obligated to be on that field, because that was the only place he felt comfortable or safe, was being amongst the softball kids and coaching and just being in his element. So he went 2 days after he was coaching. And people were, what are you doing here? Like, why are you here? And he was like, I can't let these girls down. So kind of like from the word go, we were on the softball field. And from there, we started 3 to 4 different travel teams, one for each of my daughters' age range, on all under Sebastian's name. So we came up with the Bash softball teams, and that became a very instrumental tool for all of my girls to process their grief, stay active, stay healthy, collaborate with other teenagers. And the teams really became like more than just a team. We would play our opponents, and we repeatedly had people come to us after the games and say, your team is like so much more than a team. It's like a family or something. You guys are different. Like, you play differently. You have great sportsmanship. Your girls are so kind to our girls. Just compliments. And so that actually started my husband. He came up with this idea where at the end of every game, he would gift a gift bag to one of the players on the other team that kind of stood out through the game, had great sportsmanship, was a great player, had great plays, was somebody that was really enjoyable to play against. And so in the gift bag was, he actually have one here. He would put, this is Sebastian, and then on the back he had me do this little spiel where you can't read it, it's a bunch of words, but it's basically the story of Bash, and how he's inspired these teams, and they play with kindness on their heart. They try to do things like Bash did, where they are kind to other human beings, when you wouldn't ordinarily think so. And so that's the story of Bash. And then in the gift bag was like, a wet rag and chapstick and all the things that you need on a softball tournament. And so we started doing that. And so it was really cool, because I think that's one of the big things that's come up from losing Bash, is because we've been so loved and supported, it's prompted this feeling of, how do we give back? How do we give back to the people that have given up to us? How do we have a Bash mindset? How do we do things for other people, because we're only here for such a short time? And I think that it's been rewarding for the girls on the team to see when they give that gift bag, these other girls that receive it, they're just like, wait, why do I get a gift? And then they open it, and then you see them read the story, and then they oftentimes have reached out after the tournament, like days later, and just said, wow, like, it makes sense why your team is more than just a team. You guys play with a purpose, and we really appreciate you teaching, our girls how to be a kind human being. So that has been, as you can tell,
yeah.
very rewarding, challenging too, but very rewarding. And I think it's good because it's teaching these girls a lesson about, life is short, treat people well.
Do you
I-
feel Bash's presence? Do you see his presence at these games?
well, what I love at the games is when they do like at the end of the game, you say, "Oh, good job" to the other team. Um, so the girls on the Bash teams have come up with a chant, and it's very much it says his name through the chant, and then when at the end of the game, when the other team, does their cheer for us, they say, "Good job, Bash." So, and then all throughout the games, you hear parents and team members like, "Let's go, Bash." So what I have loved is hearing his name all throughout and people cheering, and it's good because I feel like then he is always with us. He won't ever be forgotten, and it warms my heart every time I get to hear um, his name. And then the other way that I feel him near me is signs. I believe in signs. I don't know if I ever believed in signs as much before losing Bash, but when we lost him, it was sheer desperation to just feel his presence. And so I would go out, outside. I love being outdoors, but I would go outside and I would just kind of sit there and take in the sun and think about him or look for signs, and I would get them. I would have, a ladybug land on my arm and stay with me for 30 minutes, which is crazy to me. And talk to the ladybug and things like I would see a bright blue bird, which out of nowhere, like, why is there a blue bird? Hummingbirds would come right up to the feeder, like right next to where I was, or just, and so through those things, I would feel his presence. And then there's a plethora of other things that have happened that I just feel like could not be anything but Bash's spirit. Like, and I can honestly say I was a doubter before. I didn't know if I believed in signs, but now I have even asked for specific signs from him and gotten them. And so I'm a believer. Those things, I absolutely love them. I love getting signs from him. I'm proud that he sends me signs. I share the signs he sends on social media, the feedback I get. Like, people I think people either think I'm nuts or they think it's so great. And I always say,
I
for
read
me,
that somewhere. Like you should ask for the signs you want.
yeah.
Like ask for them, and that's how you get confirmation when they show up.
Yeah. Oh, I have a great story if you have time.
Let's hear it.
A sign story. So we went away for my girlfriend's birthday. We got a beach house out at the beach, and her birthday's in December. So it was winter, and I was driving out to the beach house by myself. And so usually when I'm alone and I'm in the car is when I talk to Bash, or when I, think about all this stuff. So on my way, I was thinking, I need to ask Bash for a sign while I'm on this trip. And I couldn't think of anything. And after a while, I thought, I want oranges, the fruit, oranges. And I said it out loud in the car. It was just me. And I said, Bash, I want you to, if you're with me on this trip, show me some oranges. And I don't mean like an orange car passing me on the freeway. I don't mean somebody walking by me with an orange purse. Like, I want navel oranges on this trip. And so I thought, okay, we'll see. We'll see what he's got, right? So we get to the beach house. The first night was planned to have a potluck Italian dinner. So we are all there, and then one of the last guests shows up. She comes in the kitchen and she's got all these bags. And I said, "Oh, let me help you. Let me get the stuff out of your car." So she comes in, I open her bag and I start to put stuff away. And in the bottom of her bag, there's four. My son's number was four. Four oranges, unpeeled, uncut, whatever. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, Italian, you think of like pasta, garlic bread, salad. You don't think of oranges. So I was like, "Oh, you brought oranges?" And she said, "Yeah, I just thought they would be nice." So I get a huge smile on my face, a tear in my eye, because I hadn't even been there like a whole day. And this
Right.
lady showed up with a bag of oranges. So I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. I still didn't tell anybody. I just kind of, thank you, Bash. So the next day we decide we're gonna go to the across the street from the beach house because there's a little farmer's market, like arts fair. I don't even know what it is. Walk over to this little fair thing, and to get in, we go through the gate. Well, right inside the gate is tables, beyond tables, beyond tables, beyond trucks full of oranges. Everywhere there's oranges. Every kind of orange, every I I mean, and it was winter. So you think of fruit more to me. I think of
Right.
fruit like, and just I stop and I just start to cry. My friends are like, "What is wrong with you?" And I was like, "Oranges." Like, you have to see these men carrying big bags of oranges, and I just can't help but feel like, okay, this is truly, I mean, come on. Then the
Right.
other was on the back of the trucks that were carrying the oranges, for whatever reason, were all these number fours, like down by the license plate. They weren't on the license plate, but they were like written on the truck. My son's number was 4. So I felt like he was really trying to say, Mom, here are your oranges. And then this same trip, this is the final piece that happened on this trip. We had stayed in the beach house now for a whole 24 hours. This beach house was crazy huge. It was 3 floors. The bottom floor was, there were no bedrooms on it. So we just kind of walked through the front door and went upstairs. Well, there was this little tiny like gaming console space downstairs. And when we walked back into the house that day, one of my girlfriends says, "Did you read that scroll on the wall? It's so cool." And so we're like, "What scroll? What wall?" So we go in, we flip on the light, and on the wall is this like canvas scroll. It's huge. I had never seen it. But on it, it says the saying that my son said when he graduated high school. He was at a high school party and somebody recorded him saying, if you meet a stranger on the street, what advice would you give them? And my son says, you are you are I think Winnie the Pooh said it too, actually. A few people have said it. It's a famous phrase. But he says, you're smarter than you think, you're braver than you know, and you're stronger than most people will ever see. Just believe in yourself. And so this has become in our world like a bash saying, right? Well, that is on the scroll in this house on the bottom floor where we had already slept that entire night. And of all the things that could be, people put pictures up in their houses. They don't put giant canvas scrolls with like this thing that was in
Right.
my
That's
mind. That's
nuts.
insane. So I'm like, are you? And again, I just was floored. I sat down and I just started to cry because the overwhelming warm feelings that came over me, like, it's him. He's saying, Mom, I am here with you. You can't see me, but I'm here. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to give you all the reason
Yeah.
for you to believe me. So it was so good. It was really, really good. I loved it. I really loved it. So I 100% believe in science.
Yeah. It's nuts. I love that
Mm-hmm.
story. I love that saying too. I'm not sure who said it, maybe Winnie the Pooh, but um, yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
If that's not a sign, I don't know what is.
Right? It's good. Good, good. Um, and then we also do we as far as giving back, we also just like to let people know that we have scholarships that we give away in Bash's name. One's for hockey and one's for football. And so we gather donations all year long. And then once a year, we give away scholarships to kids that would not ordinarily be able to play due to financial reasons. I mean, it's not, tons of money, but it's something. And it's something that we believe is the right thing to do. And we believe that Bash would do it if he were here. And we believe that because he's not here, he would be really proud that his family is doing it. So we feel good about that.
Right. If he wanted to be a firefighter, he definitely wants to give back to his community. You know, you don't just do that job and it's selfish. Isn't a selfish job.
Yes, exactly. It
But
comes
tell me,
with a little clout too.
it's what?
I said it comes with a little clout too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think he
Yeah,
thought
it does, but
I think he thought he probably would have had a few girlfriends also if he was a fireman.
yeah, he probably would have. What, tell me about your sweatshirt.
Oh, yeah. So as part of the team logo, this was created within like hours of us losing Bash. Our cousin, who's a graphic designer, she's good with all things design. She came up with this logo. The B obviously is for Bash. The wings are because he became our angel. The crown, Bash endeavored to have his own uh, record label. He liked rapping, and he had a group, and it was called the Corrupted Kings. So King's crown, and then the music note was because he was into that music. So um, this has become a very recognized symbol for our son because it's all over all the team gear. We had a website created in his honor where we do all kinds of shirts and hats and hoodies and hydros and keychains and stickers. So we have donated and sold a lot of car stickers that people put all over their cars, and it's come back to us tenfold in the way that to this day I get people messaging me that they actually your old your old stomping grounds in San Diego. Somebody messaged me last week and said, I was at the gym and somebody walked through the gym in San Diego, which is about 3 hours south of where we live, um, and they were wearing a Bash hoodie, or they had a Bash sticker on their car, or what have you. So to me, that's such a blessing because I think about how far this logo has traveled. We've had people call us from Oregon, we've had people call us from Michigan, other side of the states, telling us that they saw this on a truck, or they saw this somebody wearing this. And so to us, it's Bash getting around. He's making his rounds. He's depositing kindness and goodness everywhere he goes. And just the fact that people have taken pictures in other states and stopped what they're doing to send it to me because they know that I love that. It makes me feel like, oh, they're remembering him today, or he's not being forgotten today. And that's, as his mom, like that's one of the hardest things for me is I never understood this either. When people lose somebody, I didn't understand the desire for them to not be forgotten. Because in my mind, I thought, well, they're in your heart forever. Who cares who remembers them and who doesn't? But now I get it, because to me, it feels like once Bash is forgotten, then he's gone forever and ever, and he'll never come back. And so little things like this, little things like the stickers on the car, it just is a way of keeping his memory alive, and a way of, um, in some ways, it's a way of not having to face the inevitable that he's gone.
Yeah,
So
right? Like a piece of him is still here.
yeah. And this has been a conversation starter too,
Right.
because people that don't know us in passing will say, what what is that? I love that logo. Can you tell me about it? And so it gives us the opportunity to say, well, okay, let me tell you about it. So, and I love that. I'm very grateful. Just like being here, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to talk about him, to say his name, to tell people about him, and to share, you know, just being a good person.
What is the website?
It's called Forever Bash, and it is not normally how you would think of spelling it. I think forever, my friend came up with it. So ooh, it's the number 4 and then EVR Bash, BASH.
.com.
Yeah.
And what if people wanted to give to the scholarship fund? How would they do that?
They can reach out to me. We have different avenues for different ones. I have a point person that we specifically have them deal with all the money because we don't ever want to be accused of mismanaging, misusing, not being trustworthy. So we have people that are completely in charge of that. I don't even see what comes in or what goes out. We just know that every year we give it away. So I have the contacts that they can reach out to me and I'd be more than happy to give them that information.
Okay, perfect. So if you send them to me, I can link them on the bottom of this podcast.
Okay, perfect.
Um, well, is there anything else you would like to add?
Uh,
What do you want to tell other parents that
yeah,
may be going through this?
yeah. Definitely. I've learned the hard way for sure. Um, it's really important to be present with the people that you love while they're here because we hear all the time, tomorrow's not promised. And I never thought that would be so true in my life, but it is true. You just really don't know when it's your last moment. And so, especially when it's your kids, just always make sure they know how much you love them. If it's not your kids, it's somebody you care for, just make sure that you tell them because when we lost Bash, it was really important for me to know that he knew how much he was loved. Um, I can't imagine if he left this world not knowing how much we loved him. That would kill me. That would really kill me. But I was really close to him. We had a really good bond. And I firmly believe they take the love with them when they go. And I know I would always tell him, I would tell him the opposite. I would say, if anything ever happens to me, just know how much I love you. Well, I never said, if anything ever happens to you, just know how much you're loved. But I believe he knew he was loved. The other thing is, I would say, take lots of pictures and videos. Um, we're very fortunate that a lot of Bash's friends took tons of videos. He was a character. He was so funny recording him. And now we get to see all that, like him in his element, where I'm really grateful for that. But you don't realize how important pictures and videos are until that's all you have left.
I feel like
So
I'm not very good about that, to be honest. I'm going to be honest. I'm really not. And I don't even know where my kids' baby pictures are. I don't know where he stored them.
on a device, right? We don't have, I often tell people just randomly go print those pictures and put them in a photo book. My kids have loved going through some of the photo. Of course, Bash, my firstborn, is the only one that got a photo book because after that everything went digital. But they love now. My daughters love sitting on the floor flipping through that photo book of their brother, and it's the kids love it. They love to see themselves from birth till now. So I do encourage, don't get too digital. It's great, but still have those paper pictures. They're pretty important.
Yeah, my
So
kids, when they were born in '09 and 2010, it was just kind of that transition to everything digital. So I was trying out all these different, now I'm like, I don't know.
yep, you have all these
I hate to say
websites.
it, but if I had to find a picture of my kids when they were two, maybe somewhere on Facebook, I could, like,
I know. And then I
it's
always think like, oh,
horrible.
forbid, like all the platforms go down and we lose all that. What would happen?
Uh, oh, that's true.
Yeah, that would be horrible. So yeah,
Well, Kim, I really appreciate you being here and telling your son's story and sharing it. I love the
thank
scholarship. I love the softball team.
yeah. I appreciate the opportunity to share. I really do. Love my baby and yeah, life is different. So, but I love to talk about him and I'm very grateful you we got to connect. So, oh, I also have connected on social media with all kinds of support groups. I'm in a little group chat now with local moms. We've all lost kids. So we have that horrible bond. But also, I just want to throw that out there. If anybody is struggling and needs, support in ways that they feel they can't get in other platforms, like I do have some that I can refer to, or you're welcome to be a part of our group, whatever suits your fancy. It's not easy, so definitely extra support has been crucial in my life. So be
Right.
willing
That's
to
love
share.
nobody wants to be in, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, no, I really appreciate it. And I'm sure there's other moms out there that are struggling. I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine thinking my kid's going away to college, let alone, them not coming home.
I I've had to kind of work through that whole phrasing because I've seen a lot of kids go away to college, and I've seen a lot of my mom friends um just struggle, and I get it. I totally get it. And I, in all the kindest ways, I want to say I get it. I know that you're hurting, and I know that it's hard to see them walk out that door, but chances are they're going to come back. And I can't say that. So it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard to even think about. All right, Kim, well, thank you very much. And we will link up the website and where people can donate for their scholarship if they would like to. And thank you for sharing Bash's story.
Absolutely. My pleasure.